What's good, everyone? This is the fastest possible 3x3 piston door for Bedrock Edition. It closes in 0.4 and opens in 0.8. It's got a negative reset. It's completely reliable, compact, and I improved on some of the wiring since the showcase. So now let me show you how to build it. Alright, so this is everything that you're gonna need. You don't need the anchor if you're not gonna be clocking the door. So if it's like for a survival world, I guess, then you don't need it. But if you're gonna be clocking the door, you do need it, and I'll explain why once I get there. Alright, so you're gonna start with the 12x3 area. You're gonna have a 4-high bottom. You're gonna go on to the left side of this, go up 4 blocks, and we're gonna build our door frame. Now for our layout, we're gonna start with the sides. Sticky pistons like that. I have 2 stickies and then 2 regular pistons. And now for the bottom, just gonna come down here, place 4 sticky pistons like that. Regular right there. Sticky right there. And I have 3 stickies facing up and 1 regular facing to the side, and then 1 sticky facing to the side right there. Now we're gonna have a slider right here, and we're gonna have a block right there, and then 2 stickies right here. Alright, now for the top part, I'm gonna go up 3 right here, and place 3 stickies facing down like that. Have 1 out to the side right there, another right there, and then a block right there. Have 3 stickies right there, and then 1 regular. And then we're gonna do the same thing right here. Now for our slider, and then our last sticky right there. Alright, so now for our input line, I'm just gonna place a lever and a button on top, whichever you prefer. Just gonna come down with wool, 3 blocks, and then 1 lower on each side. Gonna have 3 blocks right there. Gonna have 1, 2 right there like that. I'm gonna go back up 1. Gonna need 3 more like that. And then slide right there. I'm gonna take a dropper, place it right there. Go up 1 more. Go with the slab, place another dropper right there. Now we're gonna place a slab here and here. We're gonna continue on with slabs. Place another dropper right there. I'm gonna want 1 more. I'm gonna take a target block and place it right there. I'm gonna take a hopper and glass. So we're gonna place our hopper right there, facing into that another glass right here. And then we're gonna finish up with wool, like that. And then we're gonna place our hallway blocks right there. Now for our dust, place 1, a torch, and then continue with dust. All the way up. I'm gonna place a repeater on that target block and then finish with dust. And I'm gonna come down here, place 2 repeaters, and then a dust right there. and there. So that should be the entire input line. Now we can start on the wiring. We're gonna start with the left side. We're gonna have a piston with a torch on it. And then we're gonna go off of this line right here. Have a dust and a repeater, and then we're gonna have a furnace. You can just throw in an item in there. So that should give us a 1-tip post right there. Now for the right side, we're just gonna place a hopper on that dropper, throw in an item, place a comparator, and that'll give us a 1-tip post. We have a 2-tip repeater right there. I'm gonna take an observer, place it facing into that piston, a piston facing down, and dust. Now we're gonna take a target block, place it down here with a torch, get one more piston, and then a torch right there. So now we should have this, the post, and it retracts. Now for our storage pistons, on the top and the bottom, and place a sticky right here, and a target block with dust on top, facing into that block right there. Now here's pretty easy, just dust and a repeater. All right. And now for these singles right here, just a target block right there, and a repeater right there. Like that. We're not gonna worry about these yet. Just reset that. Alright. Now we can start working on top and bottom. So first I'm gonna just place that there for now. And to start with top, just gonna take a dropper right there, throw in an item that should silence the dropper. Then we're gonna place the dropper facing up, a hopper, and then we could throw in an item. Then we can place a comparator, and that should power that first piston. I'm gonna place 3 blocks like that, place a piston facing down. Then we're gonna place in our first minecart with chest, and have a chain, and we're just gonna push it in. Now we want to push this in as well, just like that. Now we're gonna go up 2 from here, place a dropper, place a hopper. Then we're gonna take our chest, make a double chest, and then we're gonna place a torch and lock this first hopper with that dust. Now we're just gonna place a torch on the side, and that should cycle our item right through. Now we're just gonna throw in an item in there, and then we're gonna take an observer, and then place a comparator, and that should power our second piston. All right, now to activate the toggles, we're just gonna take a piston right here, and a piston right here, place an obsidian, torch on that, and a torch right here. And I'm gonna place a repeater right there, and that should give us our first 1-tick post. So if we just place that here, that should retract, and that should cycle the items through like that. All right. All right, next up is the third toggle for this piston right here, which receives a post. We're just gonna come down here, place a sticky on the dropper facing up. Then we're gonna take a barrel, and then place a hopper facing into that. Now we're just gonna take an observer right here and then place our tripwire hook right there. That should redirect the dust so it doesn't power the hopper. And we're just gonna throw in our item into this dropper right here. I'm gonna take a comparator and a repeater and place observer first and then the repeater right there. And that should make a 1-tick pulse. And now for the closing, we just need to push over this piston once this block gets retracted. So we do that just by placing the repeater right here and dust on that piston. So now if we just see that, we get the first pulse in the closing. Alright. And that should reset the toggles back to the way they were. Next up, we need to retract this block right here by pulsing this one. And the way we do that is just by placing an observer right there and a block right there. And then we power that dropper with the target block right there. And then we're just gonna place an obsidian right there. That should keep this piston from extending and breaking everything. And now for our second pulse to retract this block right here, we just need to go off of this observer right here, place a piston, and we're gonna place our hallway blocks, place an obsidian right here. That should keep that from pushing the hallway blocks. And I'm gonna place a torch, a piston, and an observer. So now if I just do that. So now we got our second pulse. Now we just need to fix this because our item isn't cycling through properly. It should have gone into the barrel. Now the reason is because this repeater right here is locking this hopper at the time that we don't need it to be locked. And this repeater would also power this piston first. So when this block would be here, it would end up pushing it twice. And that's not what we want. And so to prevent that, we just move this block right here. And then to move it back, we're just gonna take two hoppers facing each other right here. We're gonna have a slab and a comparator. And that should read that first hopper. I'm just gonna throw in an item inside of this hopper right here. And now our toggle should work properly. Yeah. Now that should be extended. And the item should be inside of this dropper right here. And so that will have it ready for the pulse that we need. So now if we see that, real quick. Yep. All right, now the next thing that we need is to push this piston to move around the blocks. All right, so we're gonna go off of this dust line right here. We're gonna place two repeaters, this one on 2 ticks. place a torch right there. We're gonna need obsidian right there. And then we're gonna place a piston on top of that with the torch. That'll create a 2-tick post, and it has to be 2-tick. Otherwise it would end up clocking itself. Then we're gonna place a block here. I'm gonna take a comparator. And then a torch, and then a dust right here. And put that comparator in subtract mode. And now we just need a piston right there and a torch. And so this torch will lock this torch and keep it from pulsing when we don't need it to. It looks complicated, but it's very simple and effective. So if I just, it'll power through the first time and then just turn off with the repeater, and then it'll keep itself turned off. Then for the second part, for the activation, it's gonna let this torch turn back on, and then once this comparator turns on, this torch will turn back off. And so it'll stay activated. And so now we just need a piston facing down and an observer. And that'll push that block. Alright, so right now it is in the wrong state. Alright, and so now to power this piston right here, just place a sticky and a redstone block. Alright. Now the next thing we need over here is to pulse this piston right here to retract it. And we do that by just placing a comparator. Now, during the opening, this piston needs to retract that piston right there. And so to do that, just place a piston right here, facing down, and a torch right there. Then we're gonna place a torch on this piston right here. And we're just gonna take that signal from the toggle to keep that torch turned off. Now for the closing of the second state, we need to retract this block right here. And so to do that, we just go to this obsidian right here and place a piston and place a torch. I'm gonna have a 2-tick repeater facing into that block right there. So right now, if we leave it the way it is, this piston right here and this piston right here would end up getting powered at the same time, because this piston extends and pushes that observer. We need this piston to push it over. So we just need to keep this torch turned off for one more tick. And to do that, we just place a repeater right there and dust right there. This also does the retraction for the second block right here. So that's already taken care of. Alright, so now we can just place a block here and dust right here, and that should pulse out that piston. Then we just need a toggle for that by just placing a sticky piston and dust, and that should move that block out of the way. Alright, so now if we give it a quick test. These pistons have now pushed down, and these blocks have pushed out. This piston has also been pushed over. We can just place this back. Alright, so now if we give this another test, we can see that this piston now gets retracted and these blocks get pushed over. All right, so the next thing we need to do is once this block gets retracted, we need this piston to push over during the opening. So the way we do that is very easy. We just replace this block with an observer, put that back, and then place a piston facing downward. Then we're gonna power it with the repeater right there. So now this right here should push over. All right, so now if I just put these blocks back, we get that now. Now the next thing we need to do is retract this block right here. And the way we do that is just by having the observer read the piston. And then we're gonna go over here and then place a comparator right there. So now when that piston extends, it'll send a pulse through. And by using this redstone block right here, we can toggle it because we don't need it. We don't need this pulse on the second state. It'll end up breaking. All right, so now if I just test this again, get that, put that block back. We get that. All right, so as you can see right here, this piston pulsed out again because of that observer, but that's fine because this piston extends at 3 redstone ticks. So we just need to come down here, place a piston with a torch, and this will give us a 1 tick pulse. Now we just need to place a piston facing downwards next to that torch. I'm gonna take a repeater and then an observer facing up. Now we just need a block right there, and that'll give us the pulse. So now this piston will be blocked and then it can just retract. So now if I just, and this will also give us the pulse for this piston right here. So if we just push that out real quick, we get that. Now if I test the top part, oh, hold on. I forgot this. I forgot to reset that. Alright, so now if we just test it like that, that should work now. Alright. So now we can start working on bottom. Just gonna break that. And we're gonna switch their states actually. So we'll just give it one more. Because now we need that block right there. No, we need block right there and right there. Yeah. All right, so now we can start working on bottom. We're gonna start with this first piston right here. We're gonna take a dropper right there, place a hopper facing into that dropper, throw in an item, and then we can place our comparator, and that should power that first piston. Then we're just gonna place a comparator here and a repeater, and we need that there first because we're gonna place a minecart with chest on top of it. So we're gonna place that real quick. Now we can just put everything back. So we're gonna have a block here. Wait, we're gonna have a block, comparator, and then a target block, and then torch. can just put that back. Now we need to power this piston right here. We just place a dropper facing upwards, dropper into that. We can throw in an item in there. Now we can place a comparator and a hopper facing into that. Then we're gonna place another minecart with the chest. Just gonna take a rail and then we're just gonna push it down. I'm gonna place a torch right there, and then we're gonna fire that dropper, and now that should extend. Now for our third toggle, we're gonna place a hopper facing into that dropper. I'm gonna place a target right there, and then a dropper facing up. I'm gonna take a hopper facing into that dropper. I'm gonna place a block here, place a hopper. Then we're gonna come up here and place one more minecart with chest, and just break that. Now we can just continue this dust line right here, and then place one more dust right there. So now that dust is going up. Then we can just take our block right there, and that should power this piston. And now we just need to toggle this by moving it with the piston right there. Alright, so now we just need to throw in an item inside this dropper right here. And now we should have our first post for this block right here. Now you can just place the anchor. The reason why you need the anchor is to keep this this repeater turned off for one more tick. The reason is because when the door is being clocked at max speed, I can just show you real quick. This piston right here and this piston right here would end up getting powered at the same time. So what we do instead is keep this piston from extending for one extra tick so that this one can extend first and then this one can push up this block. And that's why we have that anchor right there. I couldn't find any other block that worked the same way. It's solid and immovable. So I just stuck with the anchor. Alright, so now we're just gonna take that right there. Take a piston right there. I'm gonna place a piston and an observer right there. Now that should give us our first post for the opening. So now we just need the second post for this piston. And the way we do that is by simply placing an observer facing up right there. So that will turn off the torch. That slab is supposed to be a slab so that the signal doesn't go down. And then we get the second post right there. Alright, so if I just go ahead and test that. There we go. And now we need our toggles to activate. The way you do that is by placing a piston right here, having that piston extend, and then an observer facing into this block right here. And there we go. So that would retract. Alright, next thing we need is the post for this piston right here to retract the second piston. And it's the same thing, just a comparator. And if you're gonna be clocking the door, do this, place a torch right here, piston with another torch. The reason is because if we just left it, this comparator turns on at 5, and we need this block to arrive at 6. So it would arrive at 7 instead. But if we sent the pulse through with the torch, the block would arrive at 6. So that's why that's important. And now for the pulse to push this stuff to the side, to take a piston right there, that's already connected to the dust, and an observer right there. All right, so now we can start on the left side. The right side. So that's gonna be extended, right? I'm gonna just go ahead and switch the toggles up. So now everything here should be working fine. So now we can just fix that. All right, so now we want this to push up and this to extend. So to get our toggle, we're gonna have a dropper, a hopper. We can go ahead and, no. We're gonna place our chest first. I'm gonna place a piston with a torch on it. Then I'm gonna place a repeater facing into that. Now that should cycle the item through. I'm gonna place an item inside the hopper. And now we're gonna have the same observer thing right here. So now that should push the block up. Now we need to power this piston right there. I'm gonna take a piston. You need this obsidian right here. Place another torch, a block, piston, and then the torch. Alright, so now that should push the blocks to the side. Alright, so to finish up the opening, we just need to retract this piston right here. We can just place a 2-tick repeater right there. So if I go ahead and test this, that should now slide over and that should retract. All right, so now we just need to retract this block first, and we can already do that easily by just placing an observer off of that piston. All right. Now there's a problem with this. It's unreliable right now because if we leave it as it is and we open the door, this observer and this observer would activate at the same time. So it would be unreliable. And the way to fix that is just by simply placing a piston right there. And that should retract late, keep this piston from extending. And so it would give this piston enough time to push this piston over and nothing will happen. Another problem here is that we do get this pulse right here, but the repeater on the other side is powering that, and we don't need that to power. And so to fix that, we just come down here, place a torch on that piston right there, a block and a repeater to lock that repeater right there. So now this should retract properly. All right, so now to finish the closing, we need the pulse for this piston right here. So to get that, we just place a jukebox right here with a dust and a block right here. Now we just need to place a piston with the trap chest, and that will redirect the dust. You could use a detector rail as well. So now that should redirect the dust when we don't want the piston being powered. So now if we just give it a test, I will push over and that should push back up. Now the last thing we need is a post for this piston right here. It's pretty much the same thing. We just have a piston and then a 2-tick repeater. I'm gonna have a dust right here. And the reason why we have that jukebox is to redirect this dust so it doesn't power this piston right here. So now we should see that working. All right, so now that's that done, we can come over here, place our comparator, and then place our glowstone in there. So now we don't have to worry about that. Now we can just fill in the hallway and your door should be done. And now to clock the door, just do this. Have 2 pistons like this. I'm gonna have a redstone block. I'll place an obsidian just to be safe. Have a piston here, piston here. Have torches on those. I'm gonna place a 2-tick repeater right here. And then a piston. And that should create a 1-tick post. I'm gonna come over here and do the same thing. This repeater on 3 ticks. Our torch right there. Dust and our last torch. Now we can just go over here, place our sticky and our redstone block. We can just activate that. And there you go. The fastest possible 3x3. Hope you guys enjoyed. Now, please leave me feedback on how I can make my tutorials better. But anyway, that should be it. Enjoy your door. I'll see y'all later.